Hey YouTube, you are sitting inside a brand new 2022 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid Limited. Just picked this up 2 days ago and wanted to make a quick video on my initial impressions and a couple things that I like and a couple things that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of. But I will say that overall, I'm definitely happy with this purchase. I think for the money, this thing is pretty much impossible to beat. And again, this is the hybrid version of the 2022 Hyundai Tucson in the, I don't know if it's limited or unlimited, whatever the top end trim is. So I guess just to get started, a couple things that I'm immediately a fan of inside this thing. The initial quality seems very high. I was shopping this against cars from Mazda, Acura, BMW, Mercedes, Toyota, and I think what you get on the inside of this car as far as fit and finish, the ride quality, like just driving down the road, it's not loud in here. I think compared to all those other brands that I just mentioned, if you're gonna get the same level of tech and quality, you're easily looking at 10 grand more. So yeah, for me, it was kind of a no-brainer. I had driven the non-hybrid version of this a couple months ago, and it was definitely feeling a little bit down on power, so I waited for the hybrid. Glad that I did, for sure. This one drives much better than the standard Hyundai Tucson, I believe. As far as technology is concerned, this one has the full LCD display for the cluster panel, the larger display for the infotainment. The only bummer with the larger display with Apple CarPlay is it's not wireless. The smaller screen is wireless, but the larger screen I've got to plug in, which is a little bit weird, but maybe there's just more bandwidth or more pixels to push. I don't really know, but that's the decision they made. And sort of on that topic, down below, underneath the infotainment controls and the climate controls, you'll find 2 USB ports, a Qi wireless charger, and a 12-volt 180-watt power adapter. But curiously missing is USB-C. So 2022 vehicle with all this tech, and they put USB-A in there. It's fine, but just weird to me. Something that is kind of nice though, it has that Qi wireless charger, and there's actually a fan on the back side of the charger when you put your phone in there, and so it tries its best to mitigate some of that heat that you get when using those wireless charge pads. So that's a really nice function, I think. Other features that I really like, and I'll probably throw some pictures overlaid on the video here. In the back seat particularly, in this class, this thing has probably the biggest back seat with the most legroom. We've got a car seat back there for our 2-year-old. We just switched it over to front facing based on, you know, her age and size. And we've had this same car seat in a Toyota Tacoma and in an F-150 crew cabs. And she's got more legroom in this thing with me sitting in the passenger seat in front of her, and I'm 6'3". She's got, I mean, probably 10 to 12 inches of legroom with her car seat, and her car seat is a monster. So that definitely was a big reason why we liked this car to begin with. Other features in that back seat which are kind of nice, the back seats are heated. And then it's just some small stuff. Again, I'll throw some pictures on there, but there are little clips that your seat belt buckle can be fastened into the door jambs so that they don't rattle around, they don't smack around. Maybe that's because the back seats do have a recline function, so you know they don't want that seat belt just sort of flopping in the wind. Even the seat belt, you know, the third point that you connect the buckle to, it has a little elastic strap that can hold it to the seat, so it's not just laying around or like your passenger sits on it and they can't find it. It's got a little place that it lives. It's just small stuff like that. The Hyundai's done a really good job, I think, sorting out the inside of this vehicle. And like I said, ride quality, this thing is smooth. It has all the automatic driving assist, lane keep with active guidance, you know, radar-based cruise control, bird's eye camera. When you're parking it, you could look front, sides, back, top. For 38,000 bucks, I couldn't find another car that had, you know, 3/4 of these features, let alone all of this stuff. It's pretty impressive. The hybrid engine feels pretty sporty. You have your different drive modes, and I think they did a pretty good job of changing the tuning of the car depending on the drive modes. Not the engine tuning, obviously, probably, but more just like shift points and how aggressive the throttle response curve is and things like that. But you can definitely feel it. So right now we're cruising in eco mode. You can flip. It's got sport mode, smart mode, and snow. So I'm out here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm probably never going to use snow. And I'll have to figure out what exactly smart mode does, but I've been driving around in eco and sport. And like I said, when you switch to sport, you can actually feel that the throttle response has a more aggressive tip in. When you get on the gas, it definitely reacts quicker, and it feels good. One thing that I think I noticed is when you're in sport mode, it much more rarely goes into pure EV mode. That little battery gauge, I don't know if you can see it, there's a battery gauge under the tachometer alternative, and it sort of shows you what the state of charge is for the hybrid batteries. And in sport mode, you can see it consistently climb up to the max charge level, whereas in eco mode, it stays more in the middle, and it turns on the EV exclusive mode more frequently than when you're in sport. So right now we're going in sport and we're not in EV mode, but if I switch to eco, might be going a little bit fast on the freeway here, but it switches to EV more easily, more quickly. So just driving around, like I said, giving some initial ideas. A couple things that I don't like about the car right away that I can already tell. Like I said, the USB-C function missing, just a weird decision, I think. Another one that I'm not a fan of is the piano black over the entire infotainment screen, the HVAC controls. All of the audio and HVAC controls on the infotainment are capacitive touch with piano black finishes. Not a huge fan of that, but I think, you know, there's ways you can mitigate that. Tomorrow the car is going to get window tint installed, and I'm going to have them do some basically PPF film on all the piano black surfaces in here to keep them from getting scratched up and degrading over time. I think that should be enough to sort of mitigate it. One thing that they did do to compensate for the fact that you don't have a wheel, even on these buttons here on the center console and also on the wheel, the steering wheel controls, things like the volume control, they have, I guess I'll call it like an inertia. So if you hold that button for more than a half a second, it doesn't go up by intervals of 1 or 2 anymore. It starts jumping by maybe 3 or 5. So you can really quickly go from a low to a high volume or a high to a low volume, and you're not sitting there waiting for it to one at a time countdown. So that's pretty nice. Another thing that I definitely like about the car, I haven't seen this in any other vehicles. It has heated and cooled seats, and those controls in the settings of the car can be linked to the main HVAC controls or the main AC controls. So if you hop in the car and you crank the AC all the way down, it's automatically going to put the ventilated seat, at least for the driver, into the most aggressive cooling position. You can obviously manually override that depending on what you want, but that just seems logical. If you want the car to be cool, you want the seat to be cool too, and it scales it based on how aggressive the main AC is being, it'll automatically change your cooled and heated seat function. I've had other cars with heated and cooled seats, and I've never seen that function before, and I thought that was pretty smart. One thing that I saw in a review, it's from those guys in Canada, I can't remember the name of their channel, Jacob and Yuri, whatever their channel is. They were pointing out that in the hybrid, you don't get a traditional tachometer. You only get this tachometer alternative with these charge, eco, and power modes. Even if you go into sport mode or smart mode or eco mode, that's what you get. But you actually can go into the setup of the vehicle. So on the infotainment controls, you go setup, vehicle, cluster, and if you scroll down, you get tachometer display. And you can choose in which of your drive modes, instead of showing that tach alternative, it'll actually show a tachometer. So I'm gonna go ahead and get off the busy road. Let my turn signal turn off the blind spot camera. All right, so we're in eco mode right now, and you can see the tach alternative, but if we just check that box, hey, we get a tachometer. Look at that. Perfect. So I'm gonna turn those guys back on because I prefer to have that over the eco gauge. Like you can see when the car's in EV mode, it tells you. Obviously the tach will go to 0. And you can see the battery state of charge down there. So I'm not guessing ever if I'm regen charging the hybrid battery, if I'm in EV mode. See, like I'm in EV mode, 0 RPM. But if I switch to sport, make me a liar. All right, there we go. It just fired up the gas engine and it did that. And I think that's just based on the tuning that Hyundai has done. And like I said, they've done a really, really good job, I think. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this portion of the video. I'm gonna try to find a section of road out in the middle of nowhere. We'll do some 0 to 60 runs in eco mode and in sport mode, and sort of see how the hybrid system gets along. All right, so let's do a couple 0 to 60 tests. Right now we are in eco mode, and the car does not have launch control or anything, so I'm just gonna let my foot off the gas and let my foot off the brake and mash the gas. So that came back at 8.5 seconds. Go to the end of the road, we'll go the opposite direction and do it again. Something else I really like about this car is the turning radius. I've had some cars that for no explicable reason had a garbage turning radius, and this thing is awesome. So that's definitely a nice little small thing. All right, once again, we are in eco mode, 0 to 60. That was 7.1. I don't know why that's so different. 8.5 to 7.1 is a pretty big difference. Let's do one more. No, let's just switch to sport mode. Let's just see if there's any big difference going to sport mode. And again, this is a Hyundai Tucson. Its sole purpose in life is not 0 to 60, but I wanted to see if the hybrid system increases performance much, because that is definitely helpful when you're passing cars on road trips, or I don't know, whatever else you want to pass people. All right, so let's roll up here, come to our stop. So we're gonna do 0 to 60 again, this time in sport mode. And the AC's on a little bit, but I don't think that hurts us too much. Interesting. Something I'm noticing is, especially now that I actually have the tachometer on there, it's shifting at like 5,000 RPM. Even though the red line is drawn on the tach at 6,500, shifting at 5,000. That could just be because it's braking in, I guess. Probably not the best thing to do, acceleration runs when you're braking in, but what can you do? All right, one more time. 0 to 60 in sport mode. That was 8.1. Didn't know if I had enough room for a quarter mile in there. I let off way early, but 8.1, and it was probably on track to doing a low 15-second quarter maybe, which for a small SUV with a hybrid engine, I'll take it. Cool. Well, so that's, like I said, my initial impressions of this thing are awesome. I think that the hybrid definitely does have a bit more power than the standard Hyundai Tucson. In this trim level, the Limited or Unlimited, I don't remember. Super nice comfort features in here. Upgraded radios, technology, things like that. On the upgraded radio, it's a Bose system, so, you know, it's a Bose system. You can't be too happy with it. But I'm not going to be cranking it up with the kid in here, so I don't think that really matters too much. It sounds fine. It just has no power, right? But it's fine. Other than that, I love the car. So Hyundai, maybe next year put some USB-C in the thing. Figure out a way to get rid of piano black, and this thing will be perfect. We're taking a road trip next weekend up to southern Utah, so we have to cross through northern Arizona. There's definitely some mountains we're gonna have to go over, and putting probably almost 1,000 miles on it for the road trip, so I'll probably make a follow-up video. Maybe there's some more things that we learn on that trip that might shed some more insight for anybody that's interested in buying one of these. But as of right now, my gut reaction is, if you can find one, do it. It took me a lot of phone calls to find a dealership, and I got probably one of the first 10 in the state of Arizona. I actually arrived at the dealership 10 minutes after it was being unloaded from the truck, and they were originally hesitant to sell it. Like, they didn't know they had enough time before they closed that day, but they rushed it and got it done, and I was able to drive it home that day, so that's awesome. So yeah, 2022 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid. Thanks.